Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. Today we're here with Barney, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mobley. How are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm good. You gave us a nice little sticker here for those that, I love the logo. For those that can see it, I love the colors. I love the font.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's a fun one.
But that's not the business you're in.
It's not. We're not in the logo business or the sticker business, but it's still cool.
What is the business you're in? And let's get the founding story.
Yeah, Mobley was built because I found through my years of running sales teams that sales tech just sucks on your phone. All of the tools that we take for granted, working from a desk, like a CRM or a sales engagement platform, they're all fantastic for SDRs and for inside sales reps. But when you don't have your laptop right in front of you, they fall apart. It's really, really hard to get a lead into your CRM if you just have your cell phone in front of you. And it's really hard to log activity to the point where most people just don't do it. And as a result, like bad forecasting, you can't replicate top reps. If one of your field rep quits the company, their pipeline goes with them because everything's, just like in their head or in their cell phone. Yeah. So yeah, we designed Mobley to make that easy, to make it as easy as just using your phone, but you can actually get a lead into your CRM instantly, engage with them instantly, and have that activity logged to the CRM instantly.
Cool. So if I'm understanding this right, you've got a booth at an event.
Sure.
And people actually are interested in your product or your company, and you're scanning leads, you're gathering their info. We happen to put on an event like that.
Mm-hmm, you do.
And I can see those that do it well and those that don't. But I assume it's wildly frustrating for those that take the time and put the effort in, and then it just ends up in a black hole somewhere.
Yeah, it takes the average company 11 days to get leads from an event back in the hands of sales reps to make the first call. And it's like nails on a chalkboard as a sales leader to hear that, because speed to lead is so incredibly vital to ensure that you have a high win rate from your leads. But if your reps can't even make that first call till almost 2 weeks later, then obviously the win rate is going to go down significantly. And it's not necessarily that team's fault. What typically happens is you go to an event and they either provide you with a third-party app, or you have to pay for a badge scanner, which is a huge suck of money. Mm-hmm. But that scanner doesn't integrate with anything. Their customer is the event host. So at the end of the event, you're stuck with this giant CSV spreadsheet of every lead that your team scanned. And whatever data is in that spreadsheet is based on the registration data. So people could put in burner accounts. They could have typos. You could have one person registering 8 people under the same email address. And that's what you get, because that's what they registered with. And so then you have a RevOps team or a marketing team or an intern that has to spend days cleaning it up, uploading it to your CRM, going through the assignment rules, deduping it, and then getting it out into the hands of reps, which just takes forever. And it costs a ton of money to buy those badge scanners. You lose a ton of time, and as a result, your ROI from events is just kind of in the toilet.
Yeah, like a fishbowl for business cards would be better than what you just described.
That one's not easy either, because then you have the manual transcription. Like, we were flying home from an event in Toronto a couple of months ago, and across the aisle, my co-founder noticed this guy had his laptop up with HubSpot, his CRM. He had the app from the event in front of him, and he had about 30 business cards. The entire 5-hour flight, he was just manually transcribing everything. And he was probably a good rep. That's like a top 10% rep, because most people just bring those business cards home, sit them on their desk with good intentions, and then 3 months later, when they're covered in dust, they'll throw them away because they know that person's no longer interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the science behind the lead time, it sounds like you're pretty knowledgeable about that.
Yeah.
You have a positive interaction with somebody. It's the quicker you can have another positive interaction, the higher the success rate goes up, right?
Yeah. My first sales job right out of school, I was taught that speed to lead is of utmost importance. If you can get on the phone with somebody within the first 5 minutes, your likelihood to win that deal is like 4 times higher than if you waited 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so it's incredibly important. And with Mobley, what happens is, if you're using the scanning feature in Mobley, we just take a picture of any business card or any attendee badge. No badge, no card, no problem. You can also just search their name in the app. Mm-hmm. And then Mobley transcribes that text using optical character recognition. and fully enriches that lead instantly. We'll pull in cell phone, we'll pull in social media profiles and push it directly to your CRM, to whatever campaign you want to kick off whatever automation you want. But we take it one step further. While I'm still looking you in the eye, right after I've scanned your card or your badge, I can send a follow-up text or a calendar invite or an email or a LinkedIn connection from the app. And so we have that next step happening while the first one is still happening, and get you on the calendar, have the activity recorded back to the CRM, which takes win rates to the roof.
Wow. And the CRMs that it integrates with are all of them?
Yeah, and we can integrate with anything. Almost every one of our customers wants either HubSpot or Salesforce. A lot of them will use HubSpot for their marketing automation, Salesforce for their CRM, and they're like, hey, let's push everything to HubSpot first, and then let the HubSpot rules do their job to assign things out in Salesforce. So we can do that too.
Wow. And you obviously have thought through all of this because it was painful for you and
Incredibly, yeah.
and your team. How do you guys go about like building it, and what is that like in real life? The idea is on a whiteboard, and then a month later it's ready to go. Is there any other friction between the visionaries and the implementers?
Yeah, it's a fun story. I first had the idea for Mobley about 5-6 years ago when I was running the SDR team at Team, working for Sean Ritchie up there, and had a few buddies of mine that were coders start to build a prototype, and then Snapchat swooped in and offered them a ton of money, and they needed a salary, so they bounced, and I didn't have a way to pay somebody else to build it, so I just let it sit for a while, thinking somebody else would surely figure this out, and nobody did. So later last summer, I had been put in a position where I had a little bit of money and just the flexibility to do this again. I met up with my best friend of 30 years, a guy named Chris Jenkins, who used to run the Utah CTO show here out of this studio. And we were like, okay, let's go see if this is viable. Like, I have that pain, but let's see if other people have that pain. So we were very methodical. We spent all of October interviewing like 30 potential customers, deep 30, 60-minute interviews, and 29 of the 30 basically told us, hey, when this is ready, let us know. We'll buy it. So then we spent November building a prototype and spent December taking it back to those 29 people that said yeah, that they were interested, and got a lot of really good validation. So that was enough for me to feel comfortable going full-time. Early January, we incorporated, started coding. I went full-time. And then a couple months later, Chris was able to join full-time as well, and it's been off to the races since then.
Yeah. And working with your best friend is rewarding?
It's been great. Like, literally zero friction or tension. I mean, when I say best friend, like, we literally had our Halloween candy stolen together in 6th grade while we were trick-or-treating. When my wife and I were building our first house, we lived in his basement rent-free. We tried to pay. They wouldn't let us. Like, we go back a long, long ways, and we have really complementary skill sets. I've been on the sales side my whole career, been everything from an AE to a VP of sales, and he has been a chief product officer. He's been a CTO, and then he ran biz dev at Workfront and on 24 for a while. So he's got that side down. I've got the sales side down. And we just complement each other really, really well, and a really good balance.
I love it. So that's pretty cool that you came out of the gates with 29 customers. And who is the ideal customer, and how do they ultimately use Mobley?
Yeah. So the end user is the person that's spending time in the field, right? Somebody who is either going to a lot of events or knocking on doors, visiting customers face-to-face, and just always on the road, not necessarily convenient for them to have their laptop pulled out. In terms of companies, we work really well with companies between 40, 50 employees up to about 1,000. If they have less than that, they probably don't have a big enough field presence to get a ton of benefit from Mobley. We have some customers that have significantly less than that, but ideally 50 to 1,000 employees, and based in the U.S. It's a lot easier to enrich content data from U.S.-based people versus international. And B2B, for sure. A lot of our contact enrichment is on the business side, not the personal side.
Gotcha. And so for Mobley to be successful, there needs to be in-person shows, it sounds like, right?
In-person shows or just a lot of field work, but typically a combination of both. Yep.
Because doing this podcast for 6 years now,
Yep.
Those are very important.
I think so. Yeah.
Oftentimes there's a fun story of like, yeah, we were at this show, we didn't want to go. And we got like our first 8 clients, or we met our co-founder. It's almost always a positive thing.
Always.
And for whatever reason, people are always like fighting against it, but they go and it's very rewardful.
I think the biggest reason why is because it's hard to measure ROI from events. A lot of the problems that we're solving are the reason why people don't like doing events. So a couple of stats I'll throw at you. A third of marketing budgets go toward events. In 2023, I think a lot of that is everybody's sick of being locked down from COVID, and they realize the value of that in-person, face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
But only 6% of C-level executives are confident in their field strategy. So they're dumping all of this money in to field events and like, yeah, we have no idea if we're going to ever get anything from it, but we know we have to do it. And it's just gotten to the point where a lot of CMOs, they just can't justify the cost through the traditional methods of measuring ROI and pipeline and things like that. So they just say, it's a defensive play. We have to be there for our customers, or it's a branding play, and they need 7 interactions with our company before they're willing to engage in a sales conversation. So this is one of those interactions. I call BS on all of that. I think it's just we haven't done a good job enabling companies to easily measure their ROI from the field. It should be one of your highest converting marketing strategies, for sure.
Yeah, because it's easy to not reply to emails and LinkedIn messages. You got to be pretty cold-blooded to look somebody in the eye and say, no.
Yeah, it's hard.
At the very least, you're still in the fight if it's face-to-face, right?
Agreed.
Well, cool. So from where you guys started, where you are now, onboarding customers and growing your team, what roles are you filling? What customers are being like onboarded, and where are you guys focusing like this next year?
Yeah, so the bulk of our customers are here in Silicon Slopes. Primarily event marketing teams or VPs of marketing are the ones buying, and we're helping them with their field strategy. Typically, marketing teams have gotten cut a little bit with layoffs and things like that. So helping teams just scale and save some money that they would normally be spending on badge scanners has been a really big benefit to them. Where we're focused right now is just scaling our automation and our machine learning around the data enrichment. So we have like a 5-step process for enriching leads versus, something like Zoom Info where they're just scraping email address and signatures and things like that from their customers. We first hit the Mobley database, and then we have 3 additional database partners that every lead hits to be further enriched. But then we actually have a team of live humans that are like manually checking each lead as it comes through in real time. So a big focus on our end is continuing to enhance our technology to reduce the need for that live human without sacrificing that experience for our customers. We want it to feel like a live human enriched everything because it's so good, but not have to put forth that full effort.
Wow. That's something I didn't anticipate there. Because if the customer gets back 80 leads, and they're like all high quality, that's probably better than 200 that are, so.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very cool. That could probably be applied to like dating too, I would imagine, right?
Yes, it could.
Have you guys raised any money?
We have, yeah. We are in the process of wrapping down our angel round right now. We've raised $255K with another 50 committed from a high school buddy of mine and Chris's.
Sweet.
Trying to get to about 400K before we tighten that down and then just work at plowing through the next milestone and raising a formal seed round later this year.
And how has the raising of the money been for you guys?
Mixed feelings for sure. We got really lucky, and I guess we put a good pitch together at Utah Tech Week earlier this year, back in January, where we were a week old and applied for this pitch competition and were named a finalist out of like over 100 applicants. We were one of the 5 finalists, which got us a lot of buzz. Pretty much every VC in Utah, a couple from out of state reached out and wanted to meet with us. And we told pretty much everybody, I think we're probably too early for you. And they came back and said, no, you're not. Come meet with us. After meeting with them, yes, you're too early. Yeah, we know. So that's been a little bit frustrating, but also I get it. Like, it's their job to meet with as many companies as they possibly can. It's a numbers game, and I don't have necessarily bitter feelings toward that. But it was a slog. We met with a lot of people, and everybody turned us down for a long time. And then once we started getting paying customers and got our MVP released at the end of March, things just totally changed. We got a couple of small scout checks from some local VCs, and then have 5 angels that have put in money so far, all based here in Utah, with a couple more coming in. So that's been good. We got some really, really good advice from Diogo at Album, and he told us, like, don't raise an institutional round yet. You're too early given the current state of things. It was right in the middle of the SVB implosion. He's like, go raise $200,000 to $500,000, which is exactly what we're doing now, and get your first 10, 20 customers, and then come back, and it'll be so easy to get a much bigger check. And that's what we ended up pivoting toward, and it's been a lot better.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, Diogo, he always has some good advice.
Yeah, he's the man.
Very cool. So for you guys, being dialed into your customers and like what trade shows they're going to, do you guys have like best practices that you're like in a blog or something, like, in addition to like your tech, which is cool, there's still like an element to even optimize the interactions more? What are some ways that you can sprinkle a bit of knowledge for folks that are out there to have better success?
I've got a freaking novel I could write about this. Number one is plan your event strategy ahead of time. Start reaching out to people that you anticipate being there ahead of time, and get meetings on your calendar before the show even starts. It's really, really hard to just show up and hope people come. This is not Field of Dreams, right? Like, you have to build it and then push people to it, and then maybe they will come. So do that. Make sure that you're engaging in your booth, not just, standing there with your hands behind your back asking how people are, but, looking at their badge and calling them by name. And as my buddy John Seelig, who's the first guest on our podcast today, he's a comedian, and he actually writes jokes for people at their booths to like industry-related jokes that serve as icebreakers that kind of force people to stop and listen and start a conversation with a smile on their face, and then follow up immediately. There are so many people that'll say, best practice is you wait till like Tuesday of the next week for them to get back and settle. Nope, that's not best practice. Best practice is to follow up right then and there and get something on the calendar, because somebody else will if you are not doing that. So do not wait. Don't be the person that, that's waiting till the next week. That's far too long. Get that follow-up scheduled, get the meeting on the calendar while you're still looking somebody in the eyes.
I love it. I must be a sucker then, because if somebody gives me like a nice pen that writes well, I'll be like, oh yeah, we better have that meeting. Right? I'm an easy sell.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Zach. I've enjoyed hearing this story because, we do a lot of events, and I have these conversations. I wish you would have been on the podcast like 5 or 6 years ago, so I'd have better things to say about, like, well, here's how you get your ROI, right? But I will probably be checking your guys' website and resources quite a bit, because a lot of folks probably do opposite of what's good.
Most do, yeah. That's why we're here.
All right. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.